Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am here to do the LEC recap. As per usual, we do the rundowns of each LEC day, and this is something we're going to do for the majority of the splits. I am co-viewing all of the matches on my channel together with the Nutsack. We're joined by I'll Dominate, Wunder, Jizuke, all of the homies, Gilius, Jack Spectra swings by, all of the gang, sometimes Insanity. We have a good group of people, good vibes, good information. It is definitely something you don't want to miss. If you miss it, jump into, you can see the full VODs on YamatoCannon TV, or you can just catch the recaps, because I'll always be talking about the games and my opinions if it's something that isn't caught during the mess that is the co-stream, the co-view, I mean. Nevertheless, let's just jump into the games. Vitality versus Mad Lions. Some of these bans, it's like not worth mentioning anymore because we've been in such a stale meta for so long. The Zeri ban on red against upset normal, Rakan to deny some combos in 1, 2, 3 for Mad Lions is hilly Rakan, understandable. Vi is about to have a lot of combos, and Vitality wants to have space to prioritize the bot lane champs in the shape of Milio, Yuumi, Zeri and so forth, and Nico potentially. Mad Lions choose to ban LeBlanc because Perks is a LeBlanc player. And static shift LeBlanc is something that is so strong. A lot of people are asking me about the static shift builds, and what I would like to say is, I think Wunder said it well. Basically, Wunder said all of the champs that had hybrid builds can utilize AD and attack speed in their lane phase to buy static shift first. So think, for example, Cannon. I think, for example, LB, there were Trinity Force LB builds and so forth, and LeBlanc is definitely one of the better use cases because she can, basically the way static shift works, it stacks up depending on how much you move, and when you dash forward and teleport back, it all counts as units moved, so your static shift is going to stack faster. And then of course static shift has a 50% AP scaling, so you get a little bit of AP and the range minions are getting one shot, and then you reach a point where this just bounces 9 times, 12 times at level 16, and the damage scaling is just amazing. And what it does, it creates this frustrating pattern. LeBlanc is kind of gated by the fact that if she wants to push away fast, she needs to WR, and she is kind of gated by her damage in terms of pushing, and that is completely removed. So you can always push a side wave, be first to everywhere. You can do it deep because you can W into hit, and then the range minions just die, and you can Q a minion and E another minion, kill 5 minions instantly. It is completely absurd to play against. And it was something on 13.10 when the patch notes were out. I was like, why are they adding these AP skillings in these items? Eventually, there will be abuse cases, and the abuse cases are here. Emilio's first pick, completely normal. Aphelios K'Sante gets picked up, and just because Aphelios is out, they pick Lucian. Milio Lucian, perfectly normal, perfectly fine. K'Sante is also okay here. Here you can choose, right, if you want to do... some teams, I think when Milio is showing, something you consider is just picking Aphelios, Maokai, Jace. I think this is also a very good variant. Still think Maokai, Jace is a very powerful combo. Nevertheless, we continue. Lucian Ari gets picked. Both teams don't have prio on the Maokai Jace combo, but also no prio here on Wukong, which could be the substitute, but Ari is a very strong blind. And if Ari gets banned into 4-5, blinding mid becomes a little bit wonkier. Yuumi gets picked on 3. Yuumi's pretty decent into Milio. I think it's a little bit less true against Lucian Milio, because Lucian in lane can leverage Milio's power super well. It's like, I think Lucian Milio is one of the lanes where Milio is actually super strong in lane because of how good Lucian uses his power. I think in other cases where, for example, Milio Aphelios is being played, this is not a lane that utilizes the full power of Milio the same way, and Milio is more of a scaling champ, but here Milio kind of covers all bases. Yuumi gets picked, and all of a sudden you have this circumstance where Milio Lucian is very good into the Aphelios Yuumi lane. Mad Lions follow up by banning Renekton and Wukong, and Vitality just choose to ban Maokai, Poppy. Maokai to remove the Jace out of the picture, and then Poppy, I'm not sure why they ban Poppy. Not sure. It is one of Elioya's favorite junglers. Well, not favorite, but it's up there in terms of what he plays. We get an Azir. Azir is something that Faker has picked a lot into Ari. For those of you who don't know, on 13.11, Azir got a pretty big buff, and the 13.11 patch is what they play on. Azir got a decrease on his Q cooldown, and he's been receiving like pretty decent buffs all over the board. I think a big change to the minions and how they work makes it pretty decent. You have build options, you have rune options. You're basically max W now, and the stab damage is super high, and the flat 2-second cooldown down on a spell that you don't max, because on the rank 5 it is equalized. Basically, it's the same cooldown as before, but the fact that 2-second cooldown down on a spell that you don't max is really, really big. Here, I think the biggest issue here for Gwen and Kindred, you know, if Milio and Kindred is a very strong combo, right? Because Kindred is one of the champions that can really leverage the range of Milio. This is something that C9 did very much in their region. I understood the Kindred, but here's the issue, and one of the big problems of Vitality is the fact that they've never found success with Bo playing tanks, right? Like here, usually to fulfill and to fill out this combo, you just want to have a weak side top lane. You want to have some kind of CC in place, right? The enemy is already showing K'Sante top and you're counter picking it with Gwen. But if you look at this composition, the issue with this composition, anytime you want to walk into any space or take any space, whatever damage or spells that Mad Lions is going to throw at you, whether it's a Yumi Q or Azia QW or Gragas battle, all of that damage is going to be so significant. Do you guys understand the difference between insignificant damage and significant damage? They can't really cross into space without taking HP damage that is going to impact the fight too much. And I think that even though K'Sante is pretty decent into the tanks, I think that an issue here is they should just lock in Gragas, lock in Sion, and lock in something that is just going to be the weak side and is going to supply them with that space, because I think playing Kindred together with Milio, already a range support, and then picking like a carry top like Gwen, it is very tricky. You kind of rely on a circumstance where Gwen is going to be super, super strong to be able to take that space. Like she needs to really, really snowball hard onto the K'Sante or actually get a lead in order to build that space. Gragas gets picked on 5, obviously into Kindred is very decent, and to the points that I spoke to before is pretty decent. The key thing here, right, what Vitality have on their side is the fact that Ahri can definitely contest push, and Gwen has a good matchup, and Lucian and Milio have a very, very strong matchup. So Vitality here, they have opportunity to actually snowball early, and that can be significant enough for them to win this game. So by no stretch of the imagination do I think their draft is bad. Mad Lions, though, they scale well, and if they they find like positions in mid to late game where they're even or maybe even ahead, it's very hard for Vitality to kind of move into space that Mad Lions have taken care of. So how can Vitality, you know, convert their early game power to leads? Let's take a look at the game. So looking at this game, right, a very, very big issue, like, what the fuck is that sound, mate? Okay, it's just a dog, I guess. Okay, so here we had a situation where, okay, Gragas was taking his bot side camps, and then Mad Lions took horrible trades early game, horrible trades. Bo spots Elioya and pushes him out. Obviously, he wins the 1v1, no problem, especially with the bot circumstance. They can't really fight back. Bo uses E, Elioya is forced to E out. Kazi took horrible trades already. Like, before this, took horrible trades. You see that they have sums down, they are lost no heal, no exhaust, barriers out. They have taken horrible trades. And now Vitality is skipping past the turret, and Kazi kind of ran away from the turret, and they're even pretty much in a position where they can like kill them 2v2, which they just did, right? So already now you think, oh, Vitality just fucking won the game because this is pretty much over, right? Elioya is pushed out, he's on his bot side of the camps, he doesn't get any conversion off of this. Yumi's under the turret, I don't know what she's doing, you know? She's trying to pull the wave to not make them dive. Maybe Hilly could have stayed into the turret, would have been better. And then Hilly dies too. Somehow, on top, Gwen dies 1v1 to K'Sante level 3. This is just crazy. The first 3 minutes, I was very, very disappointed with the level that I saw. But Vitality, super far ahead, they get the wave crash, Lucian gets a turbo base, like bot lane should not be laneable at all. Let's take a look at how the conversion goes. So Kazi here doesn't even get the cancellation. Very, very sad. Also no cancellation on Lucian. That could have been like a consolation prize here. Gragas goes into top side to clear his top side camps. Right after this, we're going to have a replay on what happened top. So Photon just takes a bad trade, and then he tries to walk in and takes another bad trade. It's insanity what happened here. He is trying to crash the wave, but I think at this point here, after Chasey uses this Q, I think Photon can just give up, TP back, spend his 400 gold and take it easy, and it would have been better. But instead he just kind of walks up, Chasey biscuits up, and he has mana. Like, this is the driest solo kill that I've seen, because after Chasey Qs the wave is going to bounce into him, and he can just base TP back, and he's going to force K'Sante to do the same. K'Sante might have a little bit more of an optimized base, maybe like 400 gold and maybe refillable, maybe better, but it's way better than this, right? because this is a complete disaster. And then we're out of the replay. Bo gets killed. He's invading and he just dies. I don't know how to judge this. This game was just kind of a mess altogether. I'm not sure what's going on here on my screen. He just kind of died. Elioa did red into bot side, red into invade. Niski had prio and he got snapped, and Kindred just dies. Now the conversion happens, right? It's like here, if you compare items on bot, there's a Serrated Dirk versus a Doran's Blade. So in reality here, considering the summoner situation and the item situation, the bot lane situation should be completely doomed. I thought the moment here, the dash forward, the curves from upset, I thought they're just going to continue all the way and just all in and kill. Because they, in my mind, I thought they just completely win. But the first initial trade that occurs, you know, here, I don't know if Kaiser didn't have W or if he has W on cooldown. I can't really, like, I'm looking at his mana, I'm assuming he has W. Like, I'm looking at this and I couldn't believe Kaiser doesn't press W, because upset legit, they have lethal here. Like, I don't want you guys to underestimate how much damage Milio and Lucian do here. Like, the way Milio uses Q is horrible, and the fact that Milio, I'm assuming he has W because it doesn't make any other sense. Like, looking at his mana pool, this is the first spell that he throws, right? The fact that he doesn't use W here, like when Lucian dashes forward and they don't space the passives and they don't murder him here, it just was crazy to me. Here, upset presses Q on the Yuumi instead of forcing all the way. I don't know. Do they just not have W? Is that what's happening on my screen? I couldn't understand. This Kaiser just not have W. Like, look at his mana. He just doesn't have W. It's crazy to me. But nevertheless, it happens. This happens, okay. The supposedly trade that should have been good turns out to be not so good. I think that you should W first, and then you can space it better with E, and then you can fight all the way, and then you hit together with your champ. Kazi's broken fleet footwork, and upset eventually dashes, but now Kaiser has no spells, so this is just complete troll. Kaiser has no spells because W cooldown is down, E is already used twice, and then he dashes and just suicides. Like, this entire 5-minute sequence that I just showed you guys, completely mind-blowing. So let's just jump ahead a little bit into the later parts of the game. Mentioned Gwen needs to be ahead and very, very strong. Like, Gwen is not in good conditions at all. There was a dive that happened in the top turret that kind of shifted things, because here Elioa gets one shot because he's paper. Kind of greedy to look for this dive considering the information that they had on the map, and this was kind of a comeback here for Vitality. Later on in the game, there was a TP play on bottom side. Here, I believe this is the one where they chase onto Sihasi, and he just ults and buys time and dashes, and then the play kind of gets extended. You see that, you know, Photon is in trouble. He dies, Kindred doesn't get his ult off, and then after this circumstance, Mad Lions have secured 2 Drakes already. They've also created a circumstance where they're relatively even in the game, and the truth of the composition that we, you know, mentioned before is just playing out in front of our face. We'll continue forward. You see here the barrier Aphelios with the Yuumi, and the Yuumi ult is a little bit too beefy. He dies in the end though. Not sure what Gwen was trying to do here. Photon had such a strange game. Like, it was very, very hard to justify anything that Photon was really doing. We continue. Very well played by Chasey. Basic thing, pulling Kindred out of a position, and then that's it. Game is just finished. They found an opportunity where they are ahead on tempo. They secured the Infernal Soul, and that's it. I think we've covered enough. In terms of, I think, standout performances in this game, I think Chasey, how he manhandled Photon, I think was very impactful for the game. I think also Niski on the Asa looked pretty crispy. So I think those are 2 things that were really stand out. I'm going to give out gold stars. Gold star to Niski, Gold Star to Chasey, big question marks here on Photon. And I think also in terms of how the trade played out on bot was very concerning. I don't know what the fuck happened there. And also, I think how the 4-5 plays out, like when you want to play Kindred, just fucking slam a tank, you know, and come to your senses, you know? So we move on. Game number 2. We have SK versus Team Heretics. This was a very dirty one, right? So first, I was kind of shocked that SK were allowed to get Yuumi Zeri. I think that was just... I don't think SK is a great team, and I think if you think of SK, I think that denying them Zeri Yuumi, I think is a natural thing to do because of their success in Winter. But nevertheless, Team Heretics opened it up. They wanted to give Yuumi and then trade for Mililution. I understand that part, right? Like in their brain, they're like, we give Yuumi, we get Mililution. That's a good trade. We can play this Yuumi Zeri side too. That's perfectly fine. That's like an idea that you can have on red side. Zeri Ari gets locked in, and then Azir is the response. Azir now, this is the second game in LEC that we see against Ari. But it's, of course, something that Faker played too, and it seemed to be doing well. We saw it also in the LPL, I believe. Team Heretics follow up with a Nocturne Viego ban, and then Poppy Sejuani, and then Wukong gets picked on 4. I think in this spot, Wukong, you get it into 4-5, you should be very happy. I think that Seju ban can make sense if you believe that the enemy top laner is going to look to play a carry top laner, but I think that's something that you can invite against Evi, honestly. And then Wukong gets picked on 4, you're very happy. Kha'Zix, I'm not so sure about the purpose of Kha'Zix in such a game. Sure, the enemy has some squishy champions, but playing it against Wukong... honestly, on this channel, I think you guys have heard me talk shit about Kha'Zix many times. I think that this champion is a win more champ. I'd rather have a champ that helps me win. But I think in terms of how the bans played out, like considering you know, you're banning Poppy Sejuani here on 4, you don't really have that many options. You just don't have that many options. I was surprised that Wukong didn't get picked here on 3 because you're showing Yuumi Zeri. But I think you know, if I try to think of other options that you can pick into Wukong, it's not so easy for me to think of something here on the spot because like Nocturne Viego's out, Wukong gets picked on 4. I feel like if Wukong is just banned, there's a lot more simple answers into whatever the enemy team is going to pick on 4, which is obviously going to be in most cases just a jungler, right? I think just if you ban Wukong, it opens up a pool of champions that is a lot more reasonable to play, in my opinion. That's why I think just Wukong ban makes a lot more sense here on 4 vibe, because Wukong is still quite premium, in my opinion. Kha'Zix Gragas, and then you just follow up with the Sion. Naturally, it's heavy. He's going to pick Sion if Kissanta's out. I think this is what we've seen so far. He picks Sion because he already has Milio, Lucian, Azir. The whole comp is about Milio, Lucian, Azir. A very fun interaction with Milio is that he actually extends the range of Azir. So Milio finds synergies in other places than just bot, because Milio, his W applies to all of his teammates. So it's definitely something to look out for when Milio gets picked. You see the Milio Kindred as a combination, and here we see Milio Azir, and this is pretty good. A good look for Veteo, right, that he's playing Azir as a champion that he got criticized in the past for not playing, so I'm happy that he does play it. That's a big plus if we think about Veteo, you know, in isolation. Okay, so this particular game was a very nice game if we think about, you know, the condition that they actually set themselves up for. If we look at this condition, right, it's like bot lane was completely smurfing. It's like if I show you some of the mistakes that occurred in lane, like Yuumi just got snapped. You know, so basically they went for this level 1 invade where Sion just decides to use his Q in the bush instead of preparing the Raptors to one-shot him with his teammates, right? So basically this is kind of odd. So he already wasted his Q for no reason. In reality, you can like combo the Raptors and kill them together, but instead it didn't happen, and Evi is just walking in without a spell and just taking a lot of fucking damage for no reason. Here, Zeri and Yuumi are pretty late to the party, but I think in isolation, if you think about level 1, I think that blue side should actually be stronger because red side actually has no like real way of fighting. It's like Milio level 1, sure, he can skill W and maybe be strong because he gives all of his teammates range. Maybe that's the way to be stronger level 1. But like Wukong is not that crazy level 1. Azir is not that crazy level 1. And I think the Sion strat is something that is predictable. And Gragas just commit. Like basic what teams do is they just hover here with Gragas and you leave in time for the minions. And then it's okay. So here he hovered, he noticed the invade is happening, he just fought. I think if Zeri Yumi is in position with Zeri Yumi Q and Zeri Qs, you can just push them away, poke slowly, and the enemy needs to go first and they're gonna lose. So Gragas, he gets killed, Evi loses all HP, and Marku manages to secure the Raptors. So obviously this is a really big win for SK. Yeah, Evi takes XP from mid, so Viteo loses XP, and then Irrelevant runs into Evi. This is very important to highlight because Evi's conditions are so fucked here. Like, the guy puts up and, you know, obviously you can see that his lane phase is just down the dumpster, right? He's in horrible, like, conditions here. Really disastrous. And somehow, you know, we don't get to see much of top lane anymore, but somehow he just stabilizes. So I have to blame Irrelevant for that. This is also very strange. I don't know what the fuck is happening, you know, fucking level 2 power spike. Level 2 power spike in 2023, you die to it as Yumi. That is very fresh and dank. What a fall from grace when it comes for DOS, you know. Very big fall from grace. He had a fantastic winter split together with Exakick, and this was a very bad look. I hope that SK can find ways to bounce back, because these type of things really make these games... they become so strange, because all of a sudden this just shifts the whole bot lane matchup in a way that makes it almost unreviewable, you know. Kind of reminds me of like Kaiser back in winter when he played with Neon, you know. These type of things are kind of crazy. So we fast forward, the continuation was just a lot of pressure into bot dives after bot kills. The conditions of bot was just completely mental. You had situations where SK tried to fight back, but it just wasn't happening. Evi TP'd into bot, waited for the shield, knocked him out, KO'd him, Q's DOS as well. You know, the condition of the game should just be completely over. But now, the Team Heretics problems are coming back. They're coming back in a way that, you know, reminds me a lot of the previous split, where they have such intense mid-game issues. Intense mid-game issues. I don't know why Irrelevant right there didn't ult off of the Everfrost that he just placed, because he just had a free kill there on Viteo after the Everfrost lands. But maybe he was surprised by the fact that it happened. But here, the conditions of the game should be completely won. A big problem for Team Heretics was just in their level of overextension in terms of positions. Like, it started here. I think Certus did a wonderful play here. He recognized that the minions are dying, and his play is really fucking good here. He ults and he finds a really fat Everfrost. Like, this was very well played by Certus. Props to him. I really liked what I saw here. We continue forward. They managed to pick up some big bangers here, all things considered. You know, it's just here, like, the fact that they are rushing forward to hit a tier 3 in this position, it makes no sense, right? In reality, you took the tier 2 already. You can choose to base and fog, clear the enemy's vision so they get pushed out of their own jungle. And I think that what you could look for here is just, you want to look to start to pressure Nash. You're very strong in the game, clear the vision that the enemy has in the blue side jungle and make them face check into you, and they've lost the game. It's like right now, if we just press tab, look how fed this Azir is. Look how fed this Lucian is. They have absolutely no chance. You took this turret and for some reason you decide to siege here in a position where the enemy has full control of their own blue side jungle. This is a big no-no. What Team Heretics should look to do after breaking the tier 2 is to actually push the enemy out, right? They should push the enemy out. This is crucial. If we take a step back here, the tier 2 is taken and SK is just staying in position. And then after you take these turrets, you just kind of waddle back, you wait for Sion to push the mid wave, someone's gonna catch the mid wave, you take over the space and you start to pressure Nash unless you need to base. And it would have been a lot better. But here SK gets to stay in this pocket and Exakick ease into the mid wave, but no one's showing on the mid wave yet, right? If Sion's pushing this wave, that this wave is crucial to gain information, but they just didn't go for it. So yeah, Team Heretics gets punished and the game gets extended. We jump a little bit forward because this game got a little bit crazy. Like Exakick all of a sudden found conditions in the game where he was strong. We came out of a replay, Markoon died, and here Certus, you know, he did the absolute best. Like, Certus deserves a gold star for this game because he definitely kept SK in the game, while every other SK player did very crucial mistakes. Even Exakick, he was jumping in ways that was just kind of horrible to watch and horrible to see. We continue forward. Exakick is just popping off. He's going sicko mode here. You know, he's hitting. He finds the kill and the zap. Then Flacket does a stopwatch here. Very, very nice route here from Irrelevant on the Everfrost, but Exakick keeps his ult going, and they manage to find these turnarounds. If we look at the circumstance again, it's like, what is your intention? What is your plan? So it's like you killed Marcoon, and the main thing here to consider is, do you have valid ways to turn, right? If you don't have valid ways to turn, the enemy will take a too good of a position to pressure you. Because keep in mind here, right, even though you killed Marcoon, you don't have Lucian Culling, you don't have Mercer ult, you don't have Wukong ult, Sion ult is on a 4-second cooldown. This is very, very important to keep in mind when you leash Nashor. If you leash Nashor with the intention to finish, you're going to get aced in this position, right? It works in positions where the enemy is maybe on tier 2, you say you're going to finish Nash, you need to let the enemy go into the pit. Something that could have been done is maybe you play into the pit and then maybe you look to shuffle Exakick in with Azir. This could have been a play, right? Very hard to E out with Zeri if you look to do this. But Azir is showing, so there's no threat. And that's the key thing, right? Team Heretics made absolutely no plan in terms of how they want to convert this winning position, because their only plan was to hit Nash. And Exakick here, in terms of the information, he pushes out Sion, and then they walk in, and then Sion is already pushed out, Certus finds the angle. He finds the angle, he Everfrost used ult, and then Sion ults too. Sion ulted here, but in reality he should hold. And then Team Heretics, they back off and they're looking for more. They cancel the Nash and then they're going back to the same play, but there's no plan in place on how they're supposed to turn. Now Wukong ult is on, Culling is on, but Sion ulted, and there's no clear plan here. It's like Mercer's going into this position. These guys are going back into the pit. You know, this is just not something that works. Thank you so much for the raid, Jack Spectre. We're currently having a look over the game. And this is something that plagued Team Heretics for so long. Viteo tried to turn, but this is such an easy thing to react to because once again Viteo is showing in the pit. There was no clear plan in terms of how they want to do Nashor, and you need that level of decisiveness if this is something that you're looking for. Exakick with no pressure on him from the Azir is pushing forward. Maybe there's a way to play here where they do more damage to Exakick together as a group. I don't know if Jankos can also use his spells better, because Jankos here uses his E and R on the Gragas, so he just stopwatches. Maybe if he just holds his spells, Exakick won't have the same space to play. I think there's improvements to be made here from all Team Heretics members. But we continue to the final play of the game, not final play of the game. Let's just take a look at this one. Let's take a look at this one, because this one's kind of funny. This one's kind of funny. So SK got Nash. They managed to claw their way back into the game somehow. There's a big fight that occurs. Trying to remember exactly what happened. Oh yeah, this is the one. Well, this is the one, yes. So Gragas overpostures. Not happy with that. Not happy with the overposture of Gragas. Certus is trying to find a flank. Very well played. He gets spotted here, but he's going for it. I think Certus has really, really good game awareness in this one. Here, I think if Exakick just turns around on Flacket, I think that they just win the game here. But it just doesn't happen. Like, he keeps fighting forward, but if... Like Flacket is so deep here. Like, if these guys just walk on Flacket right now, it's done. And Flacket would have made a massive mistake. But instead, Exakick is Eing into the Sion. Very, very bad. Very, very bad. And Flacket gets away with murder here, and he looks like the hero in this play. So Team Red is looking at the situation and say, yo, we can end. This is over. This is completely over. We can end here. No problem at all. Let's look for it. Gragas is spawning. They managed to catch the wave. A little smite on the golem. And they managed to save the game for another day. They leash the Elder. Everyone is spawning. Everyone's looking. They managed to get the Elder. Not sure why Evi is here in this bush. Like, it just doesn't make sense. He doesn't accomplish anything. He's trying to be a human ward. And Exakick just jumps into the pit. Not sure what he's looking for here, but I guess he was feeling it. But obviously it's completely troll. I think Evi, what he did was troll. I think what Exakick did was troll. And there is a continuation. At least they managed to kill Azir on the back end. So after this happens, you'd imagine, okay, game is over. Sion has ult, he can just the ball special the turrets, you can push in the wave, take it easy. But just look at this sequence. If you thought that the Reckless not hitting the Nexus was tough, this one is just as tough. Because how on earth can you not end here? Instead, Evi is having fun. He's fighting Markoon on the side for no reason. He could have the ball special the turrets. They are just having fun. They're just having fun. They're actually having fun. As those ults, they managed to kill FNATIC, and somehow this game is alive. Absolutely crazy. But if you didn't know the result of this game, thank God, because at least Team Heretics, Team Heretics won. They won. Because this Dragoon, he was always on a fucking journey. I think a valid strategy against SK in this one was to just say they're gonna eventually end. Because eventually Gragas or Exakick just jumped in when they shouldn't have, and then that was it. For the people that deserve a gold star, I would say that FNATIC played a pretty decent game. Like, he was super fed. He had a decent fight there, whereas Zeri didn't punish. But it's borderline. I want to give out any I think I don't want to give out any gold stars. But if I have to give one, I think FNATIC, because I think generally speaking, had a very decent opening game back in the LEC, and I think that sure. At the Nexus, that was kind of grief, but I think generally speaking, this game, he had a lot of presence, and I think that, in terms of criticism towards Mercer was his inability to play range champions, and it looked really decent what they did, so that's something to be hopeful about. I think Jankos, this was one of the weaker games from Jankos. I have high hopes for him, and I think the Theo playing Azir in his opening game is pretty decent. I think that's good. I think that as a duo, FNATIC and Mercer showed that they were better than Exakick and DOS today, and that's not something that I thought I would be able to say if I think about Exakick and DOS's, past performances. So, once again, FNATIC and Mercer, let's give them a little gold star. Why not? We don't need to be that negative. I think also Certus for sure gold star. Certus was the one player that was sane, I believe, on SK. Definitely. Like, Markoon got caught, and that was very tough. Let's look at game 3, guys. Koi versus XL. Koi versus XL. Yuumi first pick, Annie, Rakan. They steal away Xayah because Rakan is out, and also Milio and Aphelios is banned, so they just take Xayah. Okay. Gragas gets picked on 3, flex Gragas. No biggie. Wukong gets picked. So Annie, Rakan, Wukong, they drop AD. Here maybe you can play Kalista, Draven, Jinx. They have some options, right, to pick into Xayah. Especially when Zeri, Aphelios, Milio's banned. That definitely opens up the pool a little bit more. They have Rakan and they just need to combine it. I think Draven is a very strong pick here. I have a lot of criticism towards how XL manages the bot wave. They didn't pressure at all. It was very, very bad for the game. Poppy Sejuani, and then K'Sante Jinx. They ban K'Sante Jinx. No Draven ban. Jarvan IV, right? Jarvan IV is just, of course, what's his name? It's just a Malrang special. Malrang special. Ari gets picked on 4-5. I thought he was going to pick Azir this game. I was kind of hopeful to see a little Larsen Azir, but no biggie. Ari is a very strong champ. Nara is a good go-to champ here too, against the Gragas in isolation. Let's look at the game. Looking at the game, I think this was so disappointing from XO. It just seems to be the same lifeless team as we've seen before. In terms of Advien, the newcomer here for Koi, I think he played Yuumi, so he had a pretty quiet performance. I think Comp still to me is the strongest player on Koi. Comp is someone that I'm very hopeful for, because I watch a lot of his games in Champions Queue. Very smart about the game, mechanically very talented. He did pop off in this one. Red side composition, they have this comp where they really need to be able to pressure dives, and Java needs to be playing defensive to protect the Xayah and the Yuumi. But the way XL played the waves and how they played the situations was quite terrible. So looking at this, right? So looking at the situation here on bot. So you have cold start. I thought Xayah was completely crazy for starting Cull. I think it's complete insanity. Patrick can pick up 2 axes and they can just fucking trade however they want. I think it's insanity that Comp started Cull. But it turns out that he knew more than I did, because I think he just had no respect for Excel. And in terms of how things played out, I think it was the right thing to think of it that way. I think that any trade that they should be able to look for, they should just take any trade they can, because of course Rakan and Draven are much stronger. They stack a wave, Wukong should threaten dive, and then of course Jarvan should be forced to defend bot. He should be forced to defend bot, Wukong should just step in the bottom side, they should threaten dive. If they can't threaten dive, they should let the wave bounce, and then the enemy just shouldn't be able to crash a wave ever. So keep this in mind, right? So they crash a wave here and the wave should bounce, and then the thought process should be they should chip away on Comp's HP pool because he's relatively short range, and then they should just create the situations where they freeze. So this wave is bouncing. They should only be pushing and crashing in cases where they want to dive them. Otherwise, just let the enemy slow push out, freeze the wave, sit in third bush. The enemy can't even walk up the ward. They will get W'd by Rakan. They have to burn flash. The wave it's just a terrible situation. All you have to do is thin out the wave ever so slightly, right? Try to manage your axes. But I think even in the case where you keep one axe, I think you're just stronger because you have 3 pots against Cull, right? 3 pots against Cull, and Comp is already half HP. Pot up and this lane is over. But instead we see this circumstance where XL just keep ping-ponging waves. This was a decent trade too. I like this type of trade. They just chunk Comp, and now this wave is fucked. They're slow pushing in, but they keep hitting the wave. They keep hitting the wave. They keep hitting the wave. They keep hitting the wave for no reason. And it creates a situation where, they are pushing into the enemy. When in reality, I think they could have just kept the slow push going into their side, and they could have even based in fog, because Comp and Adrian are not going to be able to crash that wave. And now in terms of the conversion that plays out, Wukong bases, Draven and Rakan are eventually just going to push a wave, and then Xayah and Yuumi will be able to catch the wave naked on the turret. They stay to push the next, and now this is the outcome. Xayah and Yuumi are 36 CS to 33, and they base cleanly, and Yuumi got all of his stacks. This, to me, is quite illegal. I think it's very illegal. The way you say it sounds like there's no counterplay to Draven in lane. Yeah, Draven is monstrous in lane. Monstrous. Draven is like you're playing Xayah Yuumi. That's a very, very weak lane. It's like the way lane phase works, right? If you have it's like you have the power of the champions, and then the addition should be the power of the minions. So basically your addition is the fact that you have additional minions in your arsenal that fight with you if you fight against the opposition, and additionally if you've killed more minions of the opposition, you have more XP. So there's all over XP swing timers. Level 2, level 3, level 4, all of these are spikes, and there are certain waves that these XP things are happening. Some lanes are so weak that even with a wave advantage, you are going to lose. And those are the toughest ones to play, because when the enemy crashes a wave into your turret, the enemy can sit in third bush, fake base or not base and trap you, and then you're in this position where you can't push out, you can't not push out, and you're always going to lose. And this is how you make snowballs. Well, I understand that there's a difference with Draven because he wants to keep his axes going, right? But in the circumstance that they create with the trades onto Comp and his HP and his cult stats, they could have definitely done better, right? Against Draven, you have opportunities where you can play against Draven when he doesn't have axes, and you can find ways to chip away at his HP, poke him with Yuumi, and there's where you have counterplay, but Draven's very strong in lane, right? But here you have this outcome where Draven is even against Xayah and they're slow pushing out. So it's just illegal, right? It's just plain and simple illegal. So we continue. They're slow pushing a wave in and they're doing Drake off of it. I think that's perfectly fine, right? This is a Drake that they're going to have and get no matter what. Nar doesn't need to be in a position to die here because it's obviously the only play that Koi has. But Malrang EQs over the wall, so it is a pretty decent play here, right? It's like Odoamne is trying to crash a wave. He feels safe because he has a ward, so I like this type of play, you know? This is not a bad gank. He EQs over the wall, dodges the ward, and gets a kill. Like, naturally for Odoamne, he wants to crash the wave and go. And this Drake is something they would have guaranteed no matter what. Now, you know, you keep it a situation what you always want to achieve with you know, if Rakan W's, for example, here, this is a moment where someone used spell, and now Rakan is half a champ, right? Even less than half a champ. No W means he's so weak. That means that Comp can now push forward and trade aggressively, right? This is an example, right? They hit the Q and they can chip away at Draven's HP pool, and this is something that something that it is. We continue. Very important thing, right, is that in terms of how you push for Herald, I think it's more important to be stacking both waves and then threat and dive. Here, Comp is just looking to fish away with spells and to poke to Patrick with Yuumi, and that's how you can win the lane, right? It's like you can disable the enemy's potential to all in by attacking their resources, right? This is important, right? And from what we saw here, Draven was just eating Qs from Yuumi. And even in a circumstance where they're playing Xayah and Yuumi, they managed to get prio to the Herald. They push one wave and Draven's catching, and then he has to base. I think if you're not planning to dive, you're not planning to deny the enemy by faking bases and playing in Fog, then it is what it is. Here, the fact that Limit is taking so much damage from Jarvan spells, even like he took full combo from Ahri, took full combo from Jarvan. He just took so much damage when he's playing a very mobile champion. I think Larssen played this pretty well. The healing from Yuumi is coming out, and after this, I think the game is pretty much over. There was some back and forth because Draven did indeed get a bunch of kills. He managed to cash out, and he was very happy in that position. And this game extended far further than it needed to. If you look at this position, this is very awkward. Like here, what on earth is Comp supposed to do here? They're just fighting straight up in a very dead zone, right? They should just cover these pockets. If no one's showing on the mid wave, there's no reason to face check here. This is usually the dead zone, right? Because the enemy has tier 2 alive on mid, it's very hard to actually contest this pocket. So you want to contest this space. This wave is now pushing all the way, someone's going to catch it, and the moment they catch it, this is where you want to undermine the enemy tier 2. But if no one's showing on the wave, you having prio doesn't matter. The enemy is trapping you. And Malrang here dies, and Yuumi dies here too, and XL get a massive swing of gold. The fight extends, Comp is very unhappy that his team took this fight, Larssen too, and it was of course a very bad decision, because no one showed on the waves. You had mid prio, but it didn't matter, Draven could take the wave and then cross into the situation faster than Xayah, and also no one showed on the top wave. If someone shows on the top wave, you can enter deeper, but if no one shows on the top wave, it is what it is. So Draven got strong, Draven's looking juicy, still not super easy to play Draven, of course, very flash reliant. Eventually we get to the point where Comp is so overscaled, he has a massive fight in mid. Let's just flash forward to this one, and then everything kind of plays out the way you expect. It was very combo here. You see the 683 crit from Draven here. I think Draven's very strong in the patch, honestly. 683, boom, Ahri gets killed. You see that I think that Peach kind of overreaches here on the fight. I don't know why he goes so damn deep. I think he could have W'd out instead of extending. Obviously his team is dealing with this person right now. I don't think he needs to trade his life and just give Comp a target to hit here, which is kind of a bad decision. And then later here, Comp is so strong. He has 6 items. He's posturing forward. He one-shots this guy. Look at this Mercurial usage here. It's very nice. Stun into Mercurial usage. Ult, gets Patrick, flashes, very beautiful. Comp very strong, knows that he's strong, and he just finished the game on the spot after Red side actually went 2 for 1 in a fight. So I'm very happy to see this level from Comp, where he can recognize that the enemy use certain tools that make them weaker, and he can do the math in his mind that even if the opposition has more champions in terms of their power, they are much weaker, and he wins. Very big. Comp gold star. Very good play. Advian, first game here on Koi, played Yuumi, played solid, very hard to judge. Advian is someone that I've been criticizing, because I thought that the Trimby trade was atrocious. I understand that Koi needed to make a change, but on paper, right, Trimby is honestly 10 times the player that Advian has shown. But I'm excited to see more of Comp. I think he's a fantastic player. Game number 4, G2 versus BDS. Here, the craziest thing, if we just rush forward. BDS ban Milio, Nico, Draven, Yuumi, Vi, Kissander's out, Lucian gets first picked. BDS decides to play Xayah Rakan into Lucian Nami, perfectly normal, they pick Annie. Here G2 choose to pick Maokai. They pick Maokai, which means, okay, they are already very AP heavy. Lucianami provides a lot of AP damage together with Maokai. Usually you never see this composition Lucianami, Maokai, Jace because one of these pieces should always get banned for 5. But for some damn reason, BDS banned Gragas, which is a terrible ban. Why on earth would the blue side team want to have Gragas? That makes no sense, right? You would need to ban AD mid laners. I thought when this draft came in, I was like, okay, Cass is gonna play Yone. That was my conclusion, because they're gonna ban Tristana and Jace for 5 and just deny AD mid laners. For some reason, they ban Gragas, Poppy, and then Viego gets picked on 4 here instead of like Wukong. They just pick Viego. Okay, that's fine. They pick Big Viego. No, it is what it is. And then they get Jace. So for some reason, Lucian, Nami, Maokai, Jace is on the same draft. That shouldn't be allowed. That just shouldn't be allowed. That's like so disrespectful and illegal, I think. So you have the situation where you're playing Xayah against Maokai, Lucian, Nami, Jace. What on earth is happening, mate? I have no fucking clue what's going on here, man. This is mental. This is I don't know, man. This is crazy. Yeah, I flamed this draft to Crowny. Like Crowny wrote to me and I was like, yo, dude, what the fuck happened? And then it's like the extended trade level 2. Bro, this fucking ban AD champs. And then enemy plays Yone. Like, who the fuck gives a shit? Like, all of the AD champs that come after Jace are just so much worse. Because you have Annie, Xayah, Rakan. Like, you don't want to play a melee champ into that. You don't want to play a melee champ into that. It's just a complete disaster. I think also, like, you can also just play Aphelios Lulu, you know? You can play Aphelios Lulu into Lucianami. That's also like a thing. If you consider Xayah Rakan to be weak, which I think is fine. Thank you for the subs, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So yeah, it's like you have to ban AD mid laners and you pick Wukong on 4. I think it's troll that they're banning Kha'Zix here. Kha'Zix, Sion. Just pick Wukong on 4 and then 5 pick, you know, 5 pick whatever, you know? 5 pick Gragas yourself. Like, why are you banning Gragas yourself? Like, it's insanity, yeah? I think it's kind of nuts. Maybe you play Aphelios Lulu here, I think, into Lucianami and pick Wukong on 4. Like, getting Wukong on 4 is such a steal. Like, here in a lot of cases, just because Annie, Ahri, Azir is open, I would consider picking Wukong even 1, 2, 3 over Annie, Ahri, you know? I understand sometimes people want to play these champs into Maokai, but the issue is, no matter what you pick, the enemy jungle is still going to be Maokai. So the main thing is to make sure that the enemy mid-jungle combo is just fucking trash and you get the biggest Mercs value of your life. And not let them Jace. Like, how many times have we seen Jace into Annie? Like, people love playing Jace into Annie. You get Mercs, and then you just fucking hard trade into her, and you have a good time. This is something we've seen a million times. It's like Jace is a champion that doesn't mind buying Mercs because he doesn't get a lot of power. You don't lose a lot of your power by not having CDR. A lot of the other mid laners like Ahri rely on CDR, or Syndra, the Spellpen boots and CDR. When these champions have Mercs, they actually get weaker, you know? And then more fight. Okay, we look at the game. I think the key thing is just G2 played very clean. There was a big fight around mid lane. I think that they kind of threw away their bot wave states. Ahri, like Larakan, had to base like fucking level 1 because of how shit the trade was, and he burned flash. This was like a fine trade, okay. They burn sums of like they burn the sums. I'm trying to remember how this played out. I don't know if the overlay is shit or if my memory is shit. Mickey just has no flash. Dank. Mickey no flash. Really big. Okay. Mickey no flash. Playable. They get a trade. I think Labrov oversteps here a couple of times. I didn't think he needed to walk, like he could have walked back way earlier. He didn't get any autos in, so he took a lot of HP damage. This is important. We continue. I think if Labrov just walks back here in this spot after the trade, right? Here, after the hit, right? Here, he just walks back now. It's so fucking good, I think. It would have been so good. We continue. This game was kind of decided on a big fight that happened around mid. Going to just fast forward to this point. I wasn't sure. I was trying to rationalize. I was trying to rationalize the static shift purchase for Xayah. Obviously, it's not the choice for DPS. I thought it was like, okay, you're playing Xayah with static shift. Maybe you like one-shot the wave, and Lucian has less time to like interact with you, and you can just like in a lot of cases when you're playing Rakan against Lucian Nami. You just want to kill the wave and leave because you don't want to be on the mid wave. So I thought, okay, maybe this is some kind of tech, you know? Like you Q the melees, auto the melee, and then the wave is just gone because of the zap, and that's it. I thought this is how I rationalized the whole static shift. You know? That's how I rationalized it. Obviously, if you want DPS, there's better items to buy. There's Kraken, Essence Reaver. You know, there's a lot of better items to buy. So I was trying to understand why he bought this. So this was the clutch moment. So Caps here gets flashed on. They tried to one-tap him. You know, here I think Sheo needed to ult faster, you know, because he took turret damage. Here I think as well, I think if BDS just keep fighting here on the Maokai would have been better with the Annie, Tibers, just help, you know, help Sheo here. I think they could have fought back and maybe kill him because they had stun of Nuke and W as well coming up. Nevertheless, Mickey gets super fed, he gets super strong, he plays it super good, space as well, Emax and the W, and then the little bubble here on Labrovov. He hits it, boom, gets the kill. This is a perfect fight, right? Very good. My man's gets a big fight on his Imperial Mandate purchase. He's super happy, and this is of course a big swing of gold. Because during all of this, keep in mind that Renekton's hitting fucking bot turret, right? Renekton's hitting bot turret. Crown is coming out of base, Renekton's pushing, and Malphite is on top, and Xayah's opening on mid. So during this entire sequence, right, Renekton's just hitting bot turret. So it was a very good swap window here that G2 utilized. They opened out on the map, and then they killed Crowny here too. And then after this, you know, they just generated 4,000 gold lead. Something that we saw here from G2, I think what they mentioned in their interview, which I really liked, is that they became very complacent in terms of how they generated leads, and it was quite inconsistent because they relied on, of course, them getting a lot of freebies and kills that the enemy gave to them. And I think that this is something that hurt them. They relied on like over performances from like Raven lanes and so forth, and then they just didn't know how to create leads a more consistent way. And this is something that they're working on, so I think that's a really big plus. The MSI trip, you know, I really like the mentality of G2 because I think the vibe is, it's like they went to MSI, they recognize that they have weaknesses, and now they're trying to work on them, you know? It sounds so simple and elegant, but simple and basic, but a lot of teams deal with a lot of bullshit, right? I think of the flip side, like Mad Lions, they went to MSI and they just couldn't perform, right? And reasons why you can't perform, that's can be a very different question, and that can vary from team to team. But figuring out why you can't perform, focusing and spending time on that can sometimes remove you from the idea of growth. And I'm not saying Mad Lions is bad because of that, because in the end they need to figure out ways for them to consistently perform. But having a situation where you already figured that out and knowing how to consistently perform as a team, and then converting that into you know, progressive growth, I think this is key. And this is the kind of vibe I get from G2, you know? All right. A lot of the fights, I think that BB was doing his job. Renekton was looking monstrous today in the LEC, I'm not gonna lie. Like, he was looking so damn strong. He was completely having a good time today. Really monstrous performance from BB in team fights, and just Renekton in general today looked so fucking strong. I'm sure we're going to see more of Renekton. He got a buff on his E2 cooldown down, and I think a lot of the other top lanes have been nerfed too, and he's good into tanks. So that's very nice for Renekton. In these team fights, Hansama, I think he played kind of sloppy and bad. He got one shot, but the rest of the team, did a lot of the heavy lifting. Hansama had this budget build where he went Kraken, and then he just had a bunch of components, which was kind of silly. But we can fast forward to maybe some of the fights. It was always the same, like Hansama just getting one shot, and oh yeah, this is a terrible one because Labro kind of flashes into the wall. Oh, never mind, didn't flash into the wall. I thought this was the one where he flashed into the wall. I think that happened. Maybe, actually, I think the flash into the wall was limit earlier today. Sorry guys, I'm kind of tired. I've been streaming for 14 hours. So, forgive me. We'll continue. Hansama was getting sniped. But it just didn't matter. The rest of the G2 members were just a little bit too strong. He did the flash into the wall later? Okay, let's find it. Thank you, person in the chat. Is it here? I think it's here. Here it is. So yeah, just Hansama just walks into feathers and gets one shot. So that's kind of troll. Hansama just walks into feathers, gets Malphite ulted, and here Labro flashes into the wall. This is the one we were talking about. That is the one. Nice. All right, let's go into the last game of the day. Probably the most fun one, because I was gassing up FNATIC and their bot lane for a very long time, and they showed up big fucking time in this one. We got to see the LeBlanc with the static Shiv. I think LeBlanc as a pick is just the counter to Astralis, not gonna lie. Like, LeBlanc just counters Astralis. It's good into all of the leader champs, and it forces him to play standard, and then what is really Astralis? Astralis is not a good standard team. These guys fight level 3, they fight every Drake no matter what conditions, and it's not a good look. So LeBlanc gets picked, Xayah Wukong gets locked in, and Aphelios Viego into drop. This was, a little bit unorthodox. Maybe with the Poppy vibe ban, they didn't feel too comfortable dropping jungle because maybe they don't have enough answers. So yeah, this is a big ask, of course, from Trimby in terms of the Sopu pool. What can you pick here that is going to be good? I thought in this spot here, we were talking about Nautilus into Xayah Rakan. That's a possibility. It's fine into Annie. You can consider, I was considering Janna because it's good against Rakan. Wukong, right? K'Sante gets picked because it's decent blind, completely understandable. They went for Thresh. It was kind of funny, we made the joke on stream, I made the joke on stream, that Thresh is Janna and Nautilus into one, but just does both those jobs a little bit worse than Nautilus and Janna, because it's kind of in between. So I was thinking Janna into Rakan Wukong is what I was saying, and then I also considered Nautilus, but in the end they looked for Thresh. Thresh is something that you need to play really fucking good, really fucking good in order to win, and boy did Trimby play really fucking good. Renekton gets picked on 5. Here I thought that they're just going to lock in a little bit of a tank, but at least Renekton has a decent matchup in the K'Sante. Red side team is a decent composition. This game will heavily be decided by early game. We look at the game. Look at the game, I think just Trimby masterclass. Trimby was fucking amazing. He was fantastic. Really fantastic performance. Trimby was a beast. Trimby was an absolute monster. He's happy about Trimby. Look at him. This is a FNATIC fan happy about Trimby. Understandable. He should be. Let's jump into this game. So they control the wave. They get some hooks in. Younghoon gets poked, gets chunked. They do a very standard gank on bottom side after the bounce. They get a hook in on Younghoon. He moves out. They bounce the wave. They look for a 3 invade on the 3rd crash. Here Annie has Prio on mid, so she walks down. Humanoid who already lost 2 potions. Annie walks down here. I think the fact that LeBlanc is breathing is a good enough price. I think that you should just kite and play time. Hook is landed, Flay out, and Razor gets saved. He has to flash out. I think here, when Annie is, of course, Not showing on mid-wave, LeBlanc gets the push for free. I think you take it for what it is, and then you just try to play time. Play time meaning that if like you just stick around and wait for the reaction of the enemy. Here I pointed out on the co-view, I think this LeBlanc skin needs to be disabled because her chain, her Legger chain just looks like ult. It's purple like the ult. Like, did you see this chain? Tell me this doesn't look like the fucking ult. It's very, very bad visually, I think. I don't like those type of skins at all, and I think it shouldn't be allowed. It should be changed. I'm very unhappy about that. Here, you know, this is a good example. So, FNATIC, in comparison to what we talked about with the Draven and the Rakan against the Zayumi, they know now that they are not looking to dive these guys, so they're letting them bounce. And they're pushing forward and they're recognizing that they're stronger. Viego's still here, and then they look for the gank, and eventually they find it. Noah now finds his purple gun after queuing with red, and then they kite back and they just push it forward. They keep the wave slow pushing towards them, and then they fuck with the enemy, right? This is very good. Here they don't know if Viego's here, they don't know if anything is here, you know, they are just in trouble, you know? And this is very good. FNATIC are pressuring. They understand how to leverage the wave, because now Astralis need to crash this wave. FNATIC are going to stop them from doing so and also pressure them with jungle and with their lane power through this. This is not something that XL did, right? And now the moment Kobe walked up, we hit the flay. I think that Noah shouldn't queue, but I guess he queued just because he wanted to switch to green. He could just hold the slow of the purple, but he cleansed, so it doesn't matter too much. The hook lands, Kobe flashes, but he gets hooked, then he gets moved, and it's just a wonderful classic trash play, right? They crash the wave, and now they're in really good conditions. They base and continue. There was a big fight that happened around mid. They managed to kill Annie, and then there was a 2v2 fight that occurred too, where they managed to kill leader here. Well played here from Razork, like Razork here, insta-stun out of the Annie Tibbers, into hit, into flash auto, beautiful. FNATIC with a 2v2 mid, well played, very well done. Here, Humanoid already finished his static shiv, and I already explained what this build is about earlier in the video, if you skip to this FNATIC portion of the video. You just 50% AP scaling, one-shot the wave, and LeBlanc is one of the champions that can actually leverage AD as a statistic in her lane phase. Very, very well played mechanically of Razork. Viego was one of my favorite champions when it comes to Razork playing. Really good. We continue. This is kind of strange. They are kind of allowing the enemy to pull the trigger on them. Here, Xayah has tempo over Aphelios. Aphelios is walking out on the lane with Gale Force. No reason here for FNATIC to fight, not necessary at all. They just have to buy time. They want to contest the Drake, but the fact that Noah stayed on the map long, that puts him in a position where it's just not possible. So it just wasn't necessary, and here I think they gave a lot of breathing room to Astralis. Astralis is a team that is going to take every fight they can, and if you make mistakes in the process of setup, they will punish you. If you don't make mistakes, they will take bad fights, which we see later on in the game. We continue. This is the one, I think. So here, Astralis, they keep taking every fight in the game. Spot the problem. The problem here, right, is that there was just a fight before this, but what's happening on your screen right now is that Annie has no ult, Xayah has no ult, Rakan ult 4 seconds, Wukong no ult. They are very, very ult reliant, while blue side team is not ult reliant at all. They're poking with LeBlanc, they want to make fights drag out as long as possible, right? So this is just insanity, the fact that they're in this position, right? Eventually, you know, they come to the realization that is not possible, and here I have to highlight too, I've been very heavy with my criticism towards Oscarinin, and I have said that I believe FNATIC want to be a championship level team, meaning winning the league, just because of the level of Oscarinin that he showed in spring. I always put a caveat on that, saying that Oscarinin only played one split, so that can change very fast. This is a moment where I think he does a very, very neat move here on the setup on Kobe here. He jumps in, catches him with the W, into the hook, really good follow-up here by Tromboner, and just very well played altogether. Oscarinin kites and buys time, doesn't fight and just suicides. I think this was a very, very decent game from FNATIC across the board. I think everyone played super good. Special highlight to just Trimby, and you know, I think FNATIC had one of the best performances out of the whole day. Really, one of the best performances out of the whole day. I think if I want to isolate the two best teams today, I have to say G2 and FNATIC. I think FNATIC probably had like the cleanest victory out of everyone today. Really, really good. Their conversion later on was pretty simple and straightforward. Like Astralis make it super easy because, as mentioned before, they just fucking take every fight they can. They take every fight they can. Humanoid baits it. I don't know if he was baiting it, but he flashes out and then they just end the game of this. No, Astralis is the same team as they were in the previous split, right? Like if you want to look at it from Astralis' perspective, because I talked about FNATIC, is like LeBlanc is a big problem to them, right? I don't think they get the leader edge. If they have that, I think 113 only has one gear. I think that Astralis' bot lane is really good. But here, Noah Trimby with the Aphelios Thresh. Aphelios Thresh needs to get value out of Root Gun. They have to get value out of Root Gun. They need to find ganks. They have managed to do that this game. And they converted well. I can't fault Xayah and Rakan for this, right? Because it's a very jungle-dependent game, and they managed to set it up super good. Viego, Aphelios, Thresh, they have to find pressure on level 3, they have to find value, because later Xayah, Rakan on 6 are going to be super, super good. Astralis aren't terrible, they should be up there in playoffs, right? But you know what to expect from them, right? I think Noah looked really, really good, but at the same time, you know, like, this game didn't change my opinion of Noah. And I had a very, very high opinion of Noah coming into this split. And I think this is a game that didn't require that much hands to play out. Like, the level of danger that he faced in this game was fairly limited. And I think that these type of games are easy to play out. You can definitely play them out worse. He played it out super, super well. But in terms of the challenge and the strain that it put on Noah as a player, wasn't much. And that's not Noah's fault. So we of course want to see more volume. Noah had a really, really good game and he played out the game as he should have, but it was a very easy game to play out from the perspective of an AD carry, right? So my opinion of Noah hasn't changed. I'm excited to see more of Noah. I already had a very high opinion of Noah before the season even started. So I want to highlight that, right? This ends the game. Let's take a look at some of the matchups tomorrow. What we are going to look for here is just a prediction. I think that in the end, you know, Vitality versus SK, you know, this is something that I think Vitality should win. I think SK's early game is atrocious. And I think that Vitality should be better. Even though Vitality looked very bad, I think that SK looked worse. XL versus FNATIC, I think XL is the most, is just, they are just toothless. And FNATIC have sharp fangs, teeth, claws. I think FNATIC will annihilate them. Mad versus G2, I think is going to be a very interesting matchup. Quite close matchup. I think Mad Lions hit the ground running. You know, they showed Yuumi, there's some Aphelios gameplay. You know, Azir, I think Chasey looked sharp. I think that this is going to be a competitive game, but I have to lean towards G2 because I think G2 is the stronger team. But definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if Mad won. I don't think that Mad is too shabby. Koi versus BDS, I think that BDS have some adjustments to make based off of the draft. I have concerns about how Koi convert games, and I think a big detail here for Koi will be that they're going to play against a much, much stronger bot lane. Labrov and Crowny is a very, very strong bot lane. And I think that these two guys are going to do much better than what XL's bot lane did. Like Patrick and Limit are a very, very weak lane duo. And I think that BDS will make Koi's bot lane a lot more controversial. And I think that picking the Yuumi Xayah as an example and letting Draven can be something that is dangerous. So I think just BDS, I think the fact that they have a stronger bot lane will make it tougher for Koi, and Koi still remaining with some of the issues later on in the game. But all in all, of course, BDS had a very tough game against G2 off of that early game and then the 3v3 on mid. But I think that BDS should be winning this one. Team Heretics versus Astralis. I think Team Heretics bot lane showed some good stuff today. I think they showed some good stuff today. And I hope that they take a page out of the FNATIC book. Maybe they leverage LeBlanc. I think LeBlanc is a very good choice of a champion against Astralis. And I think that that's super good, you know? I think Team Heretics, I think Veteo on Azir looked fine. I think the Flacket had a good game. I think just that mid to late game is super, super bad. And the Nexus throw is like a freak accident, you know? I think the main thing here for Astralis, right, is that Astralis takes every fight, right? And that might sound like a simple thing, but sometimes that can be a strength. Why is that sometimes a strength? It's because if you take every fight, sometimes the enemy gives you opportunities. Because one thing that you can say for sure about Astralis is that these guys are at least on the same page about the decisions. Even though the decisions might be bad, at least they're on the same page. If Team Heretics make mistakes, they over posture and they take bad decisions, Astralis is the type of team to punish them and fuck them. Team Heretics, I think that they looked fine, but they got such a free game against SK in the early game. And I don't think they're going to build that massive leads. And they even made a game where they were so far ahead look so controversial. And I think Astralis is the team. They play as 5, they go as 5, they make shit decisions, but at least they're there at 5. They are basically a poor man's OMG. I know that the cream and leader thing is something that is repeated, but OMG is very, very like decisive in their approach. But OMG is like good macro-wise, very good mechanically, so it's like it's a weird comparison to make. I think it's like the moment I try to compare EU teams to LPL teams, I'm allergic to it. I just start sneezing. My body's like, what the fuck am I? I'm trying to piece together my brain. But it makes sense at some level, you know? It makes sense at some level. So I'd say that Astralis is going to win this one. Okay. I should definitely add some background music. I'll do that in the future. But that's it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys tomorrow on the Core View. We streamed for 14 hours today. Please join me for the Core View tomorrow. I will catch you guys. Actually, guys, tomorrow is a very, very big LPL game. So make sure to catch the stream. We're going to watch Beijing JDG Intel Esports Club versus Bilibili Gaming Pingam Bank. So let's do some LPL tomorrow. We have Top Esports versus RNG and then Beijing JDG versus Bilibili. Big stream tomorrow. Big stream, big stream, big stream. See you tomorrow, boys.